Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to be here again today to talk on an important topic, which is a comparison of two revolutionary leaders in two different parts of the world and at two different times. It's a comparison of the leadership style of these two gentlemen. They are separated by time but united by destiny. These are the late Fidel Castro of Cuba and the current Ibrahim Traoure of Burkina Faso. These were young men who came to their country with the vibrant dream and hope of making a difference. They share so many similarities even though they existed at different times in the history of their respective countries. So that's why I'm looking at the theme of separated by time but united by destiny. If you look at the trajectory of the two leaders at the time they came on the world stage, the similarities are compelling. Fidel Castro was born in 1926 and embarked on a prolonged revolutionary struggle which eventually succeeded in 1959. If you calculate 1926 to 1959, you'll see that he was in his early 30s, about 33 thereabout, when he took over the mantle of leadership in Cuba. If you look at Ibrahim Traoure too, is slightly above that, maybe by 2 years above that. Was about 30. I think he was born in 1987, and if you look at this present time, it will be about 35. So both of them were young men when they took over. And they came with the zeal of making the difference, of getting the destiny of their respective countries in the hands of the nationals. At the time Fidel Castro took over the mantle of leadership in Cuba, Cuba, to all intents and purposes, was a satellite of the United States of America. And in a similar vein, at the time Ibrahim Traoure has taken over the mantle of leadership in Burkina Faso, like most French-speaking West African countries, belong to the French Commonwealth, called as la Francophonie, which is also referred to as a domaine préservé, an exclusive preserve of France, and the resources, the wealth, and endowment of the country was, to all intents and purposes, administered for and in the best interest of France, while the nation wallowed in abject poverty. So they took over the mantle of leadership against a similar background of an overbearing external overlord. The only difference is that while Cuba is geographically very close to the United States, Burkina Faso in temporal terms is separated from France by a long distance. But in terms of control of the destiny, the resources, and everything, they share that thing in common. And on getting to the mantle of leadership, there have been several people who have been trying to sabotage the leadership of the two, both within and outside their respective countries. In Cuba, there are so many Cubans who are disenchanted with the leadership of Fidel Castro and had to migrate. So many of them went to the United States, and from there they started making several attempts to see how they could overthrow the leadership of Fidel Castro. In a similar vein, though not identical, there are so many attempts at sabotaging and undermining Ibrahim Traoure. There have been several coup attempts to overthrow him, and he has so far been able to overcome all these attempts at overthrowing him. Not only that, Fidel Castro went on to nationalize most of the public enterprises that were being controlled for external benefits when he got to power. Then in the same vein, Burkina Faso under Ibrahim Traoure has witnessed a wave of nationalization in which French companies have been asked to leave the country, and the government has taken over the control and leadership and direction of these enterprises, particularly in agriculture, in mines, particularly in the mining of gold, among others. Also, both leaders had to go through several attempts at assassinating them. Fidel Castro faced so many incidents of attempt to overthrow his leadership and to assassinate him, which he succeeded in escaping. Ibrahim Traoure too has witnessed so many efforts made to assassinate him, which have proved so far abortive. And so far, he is enjoying not only the applause of his nationals, but several international fans and countries. Also, both Russia and the United States have been very prominent in the trajectory of the leadership of both countries. Fidel Castro took over the mantle of leadership in his country and had the United States to contend with, and at a stage, to balance the overriding influence of the United States, had to patronize Russia, and Russia was even going to install nuclear bases in Cuba, which the United States vehemently fought against. In similar vein, there has been so much cordiality and rapport between Ibrahim Traoure and the leadership of Russia. Russia has been courting Ibrahim Traoure, who has made some state visits and who has been given some facilities to be able to stand his ground in relation to his country and external countries. The United States too has made several efforts to see that it can penetrate Burkina Faso to no avail. Both the rivalry of Russia and the United States, as witnessed in Cuba, is also replicating itself in Burkina Faso. So when we take all the totality of all of this into consideration, we see that even though Ibrahim Traoure and Fidel Castro existed at different times and different locations, their trajectory, the circumstances, and the operation of their leadership is similar. And can we then say that Ibrahim Traoure is likely to end up like Fidel Castro? Well, the two situations are different. Fidel Castro was able to hold on to leadership for several decades after he assumed the mantle of leadership. Will Ibrahim Traoure be able to do the same? Well, the climate of opinion and administrative disposition internationally do not favor such a long tenure of leadership anymore. But then, since Burkina Faso is undergoing a period of transition from serious neo-colonial control to attempt at vibrant independent leadership, it is difficult not to say that the world may be in for a long leadership of Ibrahim Traoure. So, in summary, even though both leaders existed under different times, the situation and circumstances under which they came into leadership and their style of leadership and trajectory of aspiration for their countries are almost similar, if not identical. It is in this wise that one can say that there are two people who have come to exist for the same purpose, though in different places and at different times. There are two people who are separated by time, but who are united by destiny. Thank you.